stuff to talk about today. Bazar Sports Radio. We have Matt Hand back today, and of course, Zach Dillon's to my right. Start out with some breaking news. 10 minutes ago, Zach, what did you see?
Well, it was just announced that Greg Popovich believes that Kawhi Leonard is expected to miss the rest of the season with the quad injury that has plagued him so far this season, so don't expect him to come back.
Sorry, Marshall.
Sorry, all Spurs fans.
And with that, we're going to move. We have some other breaking news. We'll mention that a little bit later. But college baseball opened this past weekend. Texas opened their 2018 campaign at home. They took the series 2-1 against Louisiana Lafayette. Nolan Kingham, 10K performance on Friday. Chase Shugart, reliever last year, started on Saturday, pitched a phenomenal game. He'll be the Saturday starter from now on. With that, away from baseball, or we're going to continue with baseball. Astros top prospect Forrest Whitley suspended 50 games for a drug program violation. Matt, what's your thought?
All right, so I hate the Astros. They'll be fine. I'm not worried. I wouldn't worry for the kid. I wouldn't worry for the Astros.
Definitely a setback, though.
It's definitely a setback, but it's 50 games. He's still incredibly young. He came out of the 2016 draft class, so he'll definitely be fine. 50 games at this age, he'll have a lot of time to develop still.
Yeah, and not only that, we got a new pace of play policy coming in with the MLB. Wilson Contreras, not too happy about it, says if he has to do it a seventh time, he'll take the fine. Zach, what's your call?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that I see what the MLB's doing. I think that they think the games they're taking way too long, and they've been doing this every year. They're adding a little bit more rules to try and speed up the pace of play of the game. But I think once you start to try and speed up too much, it ruins the natural integrity of the game, and it makes it a lot harder on pitchers and catchers who aren't really used to it. And like you said, if there are more than 6 mound visits in a 9-inning game, that's not allowed. Like, catchers will be fine, but Contreras, the star catcher for the Cubs, says that he's willing to take that fine if that means winning the game, which I'd love to hear.
Here's my problem. They're blaming the game itself. What they really should be blaming is why are they taking 2 to 3 minutes per inning to go to commercial break? Yes, it gets revenue, but if you want to speed up the game, you limit the amount of commercials being used. You sacrifice revenue in order to speed up the game. You can change all the rules you want, but if you keep having commercials, it's not going to matter. They did the pitch rule where each inning the pitcher has, a minute, 15 seconds to warm up, something like that. Okay, well, that means you're having probably 1 minute and 45 seconds per inning of commercials.
Yeah.
So you got to do something about that first.
I agree. I mean, I hate this. It ruins the integrity of the game. Baseball is a slow game. It's not supposed to be fast paced.
No, every pitch matters. Situations change.
What they're saying and what we are starting to see is that baseball is kind of dying out with the younger generations. As less people want to watch it as they did in the older days, and they think that a way to get more people into it is by making the games faster.
Take out the commercials.
Take out the commercials.
All right, but we're going to move on. Big news out of Boston. JD Martinez has signed with the Red Sox. It's a 5-year, $110 million deal. He has opt-out clause after the second and third year. I think this is big, especially he had a .303 batting average and 45 home runs. And this is important because last year the Red Sox were last in home runs. So what do y'all
in the American League? Yeah,
in the American League.
Missed out on David Ortiz for sure. They need a guy. They need a guy who can hit like him, home runs. That's what they're really missing, like you said.
Yeah, they missed it. They need that contact and that power.
Yeah, that's going to put him right in the middle of their lineup. 4 or 5 hitter. I think he's going to be a great addition for the Red Sox this year. Yeah. Although I don't see them having any chance against the Yankees.
Oh, absolutely not. There's no way.
But it helps.
Yeah, but moving on.
No chance against the Astros before we go on.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on now after that to the NFL. So we talked about Johnny Manziel last week. And
we talked about it.
Well,
I'm kidding. Go on.
And his anticipated comeback through the spring league here in Austin. Do you guys buy into the Baker Mayfield Johnny Manziel comparisons?
Nope. Here's my reason. You can compare Johnny and Baker all you want. They have the on and off the field incidents. But the player, Johnny's a dual threat quarterback. He runs the ball. Throwing's decent, but stats at A&M says otherwise. He had more interceptions in 2 years at A&M than Baker Mayfield had interceptions in 3 years at Oklahoma. Not a passing quarterback. To be successful in the NFL, you have to be able to throw the ball. Baker's more of a pro. He's adapted himself to become a pro-style quarterback. He runs when he needs to. He's very elusive on the outside corners, but he can throw the ball downfield. We watched that against Texas when they played Texas at the Cotton Bowl this past October, and we watched it. You can't compare him. Sure, compare the off-field instances, but Manziel was more of a selfish type player on the field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Baker Mayfield, sure, he comes out as cocky, but he riles his team. Everyone's behind him. No one will just everyone will take a hit for him.
Yeah.
He's their guy, and he'll have an NFL franchise buying into him. And I really don't think anyone can pass up on him. I did think that people could pass up on Manziel. I was not a huge fan of him coming out of college. I think he needed one more year at least to develop into that pro style. And you look at it, the same thing as Deshaun Watson. Watson, he developed his last couple of years at Clemson, developed into a more of a pro-style quarterback with the ability to run as he was able to in his freshman year. It's that whole aspect. Manziel, not so much.
Yeah, it's almost like you wrote an article about this, Will.
But another question for both of you. Should NFL teams go all in to acquire Nick Foles?
Zach, I'll let you take this one.
I say yes. I think Nick Foles is obviously the real deal. We all watched the Super Bowl from this past season a couple weeks ago. I mean, he is the real deal. I think teams should go in for a guy who's a Super Bowl MVP who proved himself throughout the second half of last season and in the playoffs. I mean, he's legit.
But there's news that also came out that Carson Wentz may need to have a knee brace for the rest of his career. Do you think Philadelphia should be targeting him with the injury risk of Carson Wentz?
I don't think Carson Wentz is going to have as much of an injury risk career after this one. I think this one was just, I don't even think he should have been playing that game. I mean, they were ahead by a lot. There's no reason for him to be in that situation.
You say the same thing about Derrick Rose when he tore his ACL the first time, is that he did not need to be in the game at the time when he got hurt, and it ruined his whole career.
That's true.
I don't think his career is ruined. He has at least 10 years left. Carson Wentz is a guy. Sure, you sign Nick Foles, have a good backup. You can do it like Minnesota. But if you're going to go all out for Nick Foles, you need to go all out with an offensive-minded coach, that being Pat Shurmur of the New York Giants. If they're not going to pick a quarterback in this upcoming draft, which I think would be ridiculous because the Giants never have the number 2 pick. They're always a team that finishes 9-7 or higher every single year, except for this year. You take a quarterback there. If not, I think Nick Foles is the guy you go after because Kirk Cousins is not signing in Giants territory.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to move on to Matt's 5 fast facts. Fact number 1, Lionel Messi scored his first career goal in 9 games versus Chelsea, ending his longest scoring drought against a single opponent. It was a 729-minute drought. Number 2, LeBron has made 14 All-Star teams, but this is his first team without Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, or Chris Bosh. Number 3, 33.7% of all field goal attempts in the NBA this season have come from the three-point range, which would be the most ever in history if the season ended today.
Wow.
Number 4, with Sebastian Janikowski not returning to the Raiders, Tom Brady will be the final player from the 2000 draft class remaining on the team that drafted him. And number 5, Roger Federer is the oldest person to ever hold the number 1 spot on the ATP World Tennis Rankings at 36 years old.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Federer is the GOAT of tennis.
Absolutely.
He is so good. I love watching him play. And it seems like every year he's just right back at it doing the same thing.
He's the GOAT of that sport, no question.
Yeah.
And I know what you're thinking right now. Matt's thinking it. Zach's thinking it. What happened today in sports? Not just today, this year. I'm talking about, we're going to go back to 1931. We'll start there. Chicago White Sox and New York Giants play first expedition night game. 1931. Apparently, not the best summer. 1952, Dick Button performs first figure skating triple jump in competition.
Pretty cool.
1953, longest collegiate basketball game. Niagara beats Siena 88-81, 6 overtimes.
And that's all they could score? 88-81. It took 6 overtimes to get to 88.
Yeah. Not a good shooting team.
Yeah,
Looks like the Longhorn basketball from three-point range. 1973, Chicago Blackhawks record 262nd NHL game without being shut out. Zach likes that one.
What a streak.
What a streak. 1979, 2 Iowa girls high school basketball teams play 4 scoreless quarter games. It was won 4-2 in the fourth overtime period.
Wow.
Hold on, we just talked about how it took 6 overtimes to
It
88.
I was gonna say, are we sure that Niagara and Siena weren't on that team?
It took 8 quarters to get 6 points.
That is insane.
That's insane. Quite interesting too. Who would have thought?
That's incredible.
And with that, we're talking about high school basketball. We're gonna move on to the NBA. Zach's favorite weekend, of course, the All-Star Weekend.
My favorite weekend of the year. I love NBA All-Star Weekend. There was a lot that happened this weekend. Started with the celeb game last week. Quavo taking home the MVP. Who knew a rapper could play basketball?
Bubba Watson actually played in that game, and he ended up winning the Genesis Open this past Sunday. So maybe golfers need to start playing in that tournament.
I saw Kevin Hart after the game went up to Quavo. Kevin Hart, for those of you who don't know, was a 4-time All-Star Game MVP for the celeb game. So he went up to Quavo and was like, you better not come back to one of these games because I'm the best celeb player of all time. So that was funny. Later that night, there was the Rising Stars Challenge, one of my favorite events of the entire weekend. That's when they pit the first-year players with second-year players, and it's just really fun to see all the great young talent in the league go up against each other. In that game, Team World destroyed Team USA 155 to 124. Bogdan Bogdanovic, MVP of that. He had 7 3-pointers, scoring 26 points. That was the most lopsided game since this new format of Team USA versus Team World. The past 3 years of having this format, the games were decided by 10 points or less.
Hold on, before we move on, we just got an email from Grandpa Lynn out of Sun Lakes. This is for Zach. Do you ever think that Jake Arrieta will ever sign? Are the Phillies really looking at him? He thinks the Cubs make a better choice with Yu Darvish.
I think that Yu Darvish is the better choice for the Cubs at this point. We've seen Arrieta dipping off the past couple of years, and I know, Matt, you can attest to Yu Darvish's poor performance in the playoffs last year.
No, he had a great performance in the playoffs.
All right,
the World Series.
The
I'll blame it on the slick balls.
Of course.
And
But I
his
think
hitting ability.
Yu Darvish, they're the same age, Darvish and Arrieta, so obviously I can't say anything about him being younger. But I think Yu Darvish, one of the best strikeout pitchers, if not the best strikeout pitcher in all of baseball right now. He's still got a lot of good stuff. I don't think Arrieta has what he used to anymore. Maybe, some people say he was on steroids. I don't know. I don't think he was, but he kind of dipped off a little bit. I think a lot of teams should go after him. Obviously, he's still a great player. He's had a great career winning the Cy Young not too long ago. So I hope a team goes after him. I'm a big fan, but I'm happy as a Cubs fan to have Yu Darvish instead of him.
I would love for the Dodgers to pick up Jake Arrieta. Even if he's not as solid as a starter, he could be a great utility in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
They've been very good with starters to bullpens recently. But anyway, we'll keep moving on.
Yeah, thank you, Grandpa Lynn.
Thank you,
We're gonna move on.
Grandpa.
Appreciate the question.
Sticking with NBA All-Star Weekend, we had the 3-point contest on Saturday. Devin Booker winning that one. He ended up scoring in that last round of the 3-point contest the most points ever in a single round of the 3-point contest. That was impressive. Donovan Mitchell won the slam dunk contest later that night. Last round went up against Larry Nance. What did you guys think about the dunk contest?
Here's the thing: the people who are judging it are not. Not specialized in this sport.
No, for
When
sure.
you're having Mark Wahlberg judge a basketball, he's more into the Patriots, right?
DJ Khaled can't jump three inches off the ground.
I think you guys are taking it way too seriously.
Whoa. You want to see good dunks. They're doing the same dunks that people have done in the past, and they're getting 50s
I think
out of 50.
I like it when you got classic players like
Right.
Shaquille O'Neal reffing these things.
If it was a free throw contest, Shaquille would not be right.
I think the NBA. I think the whole point of the dunk contest is to generate revenue at this
No,
point.
for sure.
I think if you get like
entertainment.
Mark Wahlberg, DJ
It's all
Khaled,
entertainment.
but you want all these. The NBA wants all these celebrities
It's all
to
rigged.
come in.
No, I get that.
It's all rigged. The NBA's rigged.
DJ Khaled was consistently 1 point off from the rest of the judges on every
time,
single
every
score.
time.
And they would all give someone an 8, he'd be a 7. And then another round, they'd all give 8, so then he'd give a 9. He was just consistently 1 point off, and it was an interesting. Although I personally thought Dennis Smith had the best dunk of the night, but I mean he was eliminated pretty early. So
Yeah.
it was a great to see though. Not as fun as it was last year, but hopefully we'll see better next year. And lastly, Sunday we had the All-Star Game, brand new format this year. LeBron James and Steph Curry were voted as captains, and they each got to draft a team. So it was the first time ever that there was a mix between East and Western players on each of the teams, which I thought was really interesting. and Team LeBron won 148 to 145 in the first actually competitive All-Star game that I can remember from recent history. I mean, it was just so much fun to watch, and you can probably a little bit could be credited to the fact that each player on the winning team was awarded $100,000, which I mean, it's not a lot of money for them. It's a lot of money. LeBron won MVP again. He's done that a couple times before.
I think LeBron saved the All-Star game. I really do. I like these player drafts. I think this will be good for to see Western and Eastern because one's very heavily weighted usually, and like the scoring was a lot better. And they're talking about a live draft next year.
Yeah, I think
that will produce more revenue for them.
I mean, you can connect this to the NHL. They used to do a live draft. They used to have players selected from each team, and what they do now, I mean, if you don't know the format, it's 3-on-3, but there's money incentives, and it's made it a lot more exciting for everyone to watch the NHL All-Star game. So I really like where the NBA is going with this, incentivizing their players to actually perform. This is the first time I've actually really enjoyed watching the All-Star game. And
who would have thought that the game would have ended on a defensive stop? Like, that was the turning point of the game, was a defensive stop by Team LeBron. It's great to see. And LeBron arguing with the ref about a call towards the end of the game. That doesn't happen in All-Star games.
Yeah, and with that, we were talking a little bit about the positive side of the NBA. We're gonna move down to more of the negative. Just call it brutal because that's what Mark Cuban used. So Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban calls tanking brutal, but acknowledged that he told his team that it would be best to lose for the rest of 2017, 2018. What is your take? But before I go on, Adam Silver announced that he, Mark Cuban, has been fined $600,000 for public statements detrimental to the NBA. What's y'all's take now on tanking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't say that you're tanking.
Yeah, don't say you're tanking. That's the point of tanking.
Yes. The point of tanking is not to let anyone know. At least settle about it. Yeah, so that happened. Mark Cuban's like, we're going to start tanking, and that doesn't look good for the NBA because that ruins, again, the integrity of the game. It makes it for other teams. It's just they go in there with different mindsets. Yeah. Everyone on the Mavericks goes into every game with a different mindset, knowing that like their owner of their team wants them to lose. Like, no one wants to lose.
Yeah. No one wants to go to the games because they know they're going to lose. People want to go to the games because they hope they're going to win.
Right.
Now, I like tanking. I mean, I don't like tanking, but I don't think there's an issue with tanking if you keep it low key. You keep it, under wraps and don't.
Right. If you don't say we're tanking this year.
Yeah, but I think it's a smart strategy. Like you're not going to win the championship. You're not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
It's not worth it trying to win. You want to build your team. Tanking exists. Tanking should be a thing. Like it should continue, but it shouldn't.
But at the same time, none of the players want to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, still get paid anyways.
Yeah.
And tanking is bad enough. We're talking about the Mavericks organization. We might as well mention this story, which is even worse. Zach, will you start us?
Well, there have been recent news that just came out saying that there was some sexual harassment within the offices of the Dallas Mavericks. Some reporter called it basically like Animal House in there, which is absolutely awful.
Yeah. Basically, the former Mavericks president, Tadej Rosiri, he was a driving force in the team's front office for almost 2 decades. He repeatedly harassed, demeaned, and made unwanted sexual advances toward multiple team employees before his departure from the club in 2015.
That was released by Sports Illustrated on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Just so we make sure we have our facts.
Yeah, and then Mark Cuban has spoken out. He said he's had no knowledge of it ever occurring. And then it was described, the office was described as, quote, having a corporate culture rife with misogyny and predatory sexual behavior.
It's not what you want to hear out of the NBA or really just any organization in general.
Yeah.
Of course.
But, we just thought it's important to bring up stuff like that, especially in today's world and sport, the whole sports industry. And it's trying to be very inclusive. And then when stuff comes out about this, it just does not look good for anyone.
No, and with that, there's another story that's going on now. Louisville has to vacate its 2013 national title and 2012 Final Four. It will become the first team in NCAA Division I basketball during the Final Four era to vacate a national title. That's according to ESPN stats and information. We'll remove the official recognition, but it won't remove it from our hearts and minds. That was the interim athletic director Vince Tyra of Louisville said that today.
So basically what happened that resulted in all of this for Louisville was this guy, Andre McGee, who was on the recruiting staff for the Louisville basketball team took recruits out to strip clubs and hired hookers for the recruits in order to obviously better recruit them to Louisville. And some of the players ended up coming to Louisville for those reasons, which was seen as misconduct by the university.
Yeah, not the way you want to, especially with Pitino leaving as a amazing coach as he is. There really is two types of coaches. Colin Cowherd said it himself today. There's a coach that says whatever it takes, and then there's a coach that says nothing. The way it's coming out, what I'm reading, Pitino was the guy that said whatever it takes. I mean, having the assistants doing this wasn't just blatant. They did it for a very purpose, to get recruits to the school. That's what you don't want to see out of an institution that is built on academics and integrity.
I agree.
Yeah. But now we're going to move on. A little better news. We got Herb from San Antonio. He asks, will Texas make the tournament if they lose out? What do y'all think?
Nope.
No. I think we basically need to win out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, we don't need to win out.
Basically.
No, we need to go 2-2 at least.
But then we're going to have a playing game probably, right?
The two teams that we need to beat are Oklahoma State, which is on Saturday at home, and then tonight against Kansas State up in Manhattan, Kansas. If we don't win one of those games and we only win one, at Kansas would be the best chance for us to get into the tournament.
If we beat Kansas or West Virginia, we're
right.
That's what I think.
No, you have to win two.
No, you have to win two.
You have to win two. You got to get to that 20-win mark. The win at OU was huge.
Yes.
That was, I know OU's going downhill, but that was huge for the Longhorn program.
Absolutely.
Not, beating them twice in 1 year rarely ever happens. Especially going out there to Norman to take on OU, that's huge. But having that Kansas next week and that regular season finale versus West Virginia, I won't be there, but geez, that's going to be a tough game. We got blown out.
30 points. But I think it all comes down to how Texas will play. We've seen when we play against tough teams like Oklahoma, played against Duke and Zaga, we come out hard because they're tough teams and you just got to come out fighting. But when we play teams like Kansas State, Oklahoma State, we're better than these teams. We've shown that we're better. But we play down to them, and I think it's so important that we don't do that.
You're 100% right. We play down to our opponent. We play up to our opponent as well. The only team that we didn't play to was West Virginia, like you said, 30 points.
Yeah.
Every other game we've competed.
That West Virginia game's interesting, though, because you look at it, and West Virginia was coming off a lot of rest. They had, the entire week, I think, before to practice and prepare for us, and Texas was just coming off the game, 2 nights before.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you can also factor that in, but we've shown that we can play. We played Duke and Gonzaga in less than 3 days, and we held on with them. We blew a big lead on Duke, and then we came back against Gonzaga, ultimately losing at the end of it.
Of course, those are both with Andrew Jones in the lineup.
Right,
that is
and
true.
like you bring up Andrew Jones, all these games that we're losing in overtime by 2, 3 points, or we're missing free throws late in the game, you have him on the floor, changes at least half of those games, and those are probably in the win column.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely.
we don't have
Right, we don't, so we can't.
That can't happen.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, if we did,
Yeah.
I mean, we can say what if. We can what if all day. It doesn't even matter. The idea is, if we had him in the lineup, it'd be a different ball team.
For sure.
And now I want to move on to our last topic. So we talked about Trae Young, if we think he'll be the next Steph Curry. But what is your take now that OU has lost the last 6 games in a row?
So Trae Young right now, the last 6 games, like you said, 11 of 56 from 3-point range. If I am doing my math right, it's 19.6%. I am doing it. I did it on a calculator. That's down from his season average of 36.6%. That means that the rest of the games, he's shooting sometimes 50% at least from 3-point range.
Mm-hmm.
6 games, it doesn't say anything. He's carrying this entire team. We witnessed it. Texas beat them and Norman. They've lost 6 in a row. Teams have found out what makes OU OU, and that is stopping Trae Young. I'm sorry, I keep thinking of the football player. Trae Young. If you stop him, you're gonna win.
Right. I mean, Oklahoma is an entirely different team when Trae Young is on and when Trae Young is not on. He's the star of the team. like we've been saying all year, he's the reason this Oklahoma team is so good, and that's why he's going to be nominated for all these awards: Big 12 Player of the Year, National Player of the Year. Like, this guy is a game changer. Obviously, I think he should be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft next year. But you're starting to see inconsistencies in his play, and NBA teams don't like to see that. So you never know.
And I want to go off of that. This team of Oklahoma with Trae Young reminds me of them a couple of years ago with Buddy Hield. They were unstoppable and then got destroyed in the Final Four. That same aspect. One guy shut them down, do the trick. Before we go, Matt, what do we have tonight? Big night tonight.
Big night tonight. Rematch of the gold medal match, the women's hockey. Women's hockey in the Olympics.
Wait, I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say that Zach and I are going to go see Black Panther tonight.
Well, okay. I just found out about this too, so thank you guys for the invite. But no, I'm very excited about this. Canada has won the past 4 gold medals. USA has not won in 20 years now.
It's been a while.
It's been a long while. Last year I remember watching that in the middle of class in Sochi. The U.S. women blew a 2-goal lead in the third period and eventually lost in overtime.
I can honestly say I did not watch that.
I hope that I'm hoping we win now. We get revenge. I'd love it. But
it'd be a big win. Women's hockey is phenomenal here in the States.
Oh yeah, we love. I personally love women's hockey. I think it's incredibly entertaining. But Zach.
Lastly, one last thing here. As of 5 o'clock this morning in the Olympics, USA won a historic gold. Keegan Randall and Jessica Diggins won the cross-country women's sprint. First time the U.S. has ever medaled in this discipline. I think that's amazing.
That's extraordinary.
That's great.
Yeah, good for you.
That's
U.S.
tough.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Especially with the U.S. now, I think we have 16 medals. We're lacking this year. We are not having a good Olympics.
Time for Matt to get into the game.
Yeah.
we're not doing well. So getting a gold in this is great for our medal count.
Yes, definitely.
Good for national pride. Good for everything.
Yeah, what a great week here at Bazar Sports Radio. We'll see you next week. Will, Matt, and Zach, check out our website, BazarSportsRadio.com. Send us questions, watch videos. Check us out in our good pictures that we have up there. Bazar Sports Radio.
Come on, hook 'em horns. I know you will. And I've seen Vince Young run for the roses. Watch Ricky and Earl